Hello, good people. Welcome to our show. Hello, bad people. Welcome to our show. Hello, guys. I don't care, good, bad. I care only about value, how you can get valuable insights from this podcast. That is why I'm inviting only the best speakers. Today, we are going to discuss more about Google Ads, how you can get results, sales, leads. And I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Amit Karba. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to learn more. I know how it's important to
Yeah.
have the right skills because in 2008 I set up Google Ads myself. At that time, I think that was like Google AdWords. Even
Yeah.
your agency, yeah, it's called like AdWords Girl.
Yeah.
So you didn't rebrand with Google, but
No, I was like, you know what? It's been Google AdWords for the last 10 years of my life. I'm like, I'm not changing it. So everybody was like, you sound outdated. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm AdWords girl forever and always. Like,
Got it. Yeah, and I started to set up all Google and Facebook myself, but that time I paid like 5-10 cents per click. Not a lot, and I today I can't do myself because I need to pay $5-10, and it's hard to sell uh, your products if you don't do it right. That is why it's very important to know how to customize a buying persona, how to consider unique selling proposition, how to analyze competitors. I mean, before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you decided to stay Edwards girl.
it's a little bit of a long story. So I started my first company at 19. So I was still in school. I was thought I was going to get a degree in business administration with a minor in entrepreneurial leadership, and I took a macro and a microeconomics class, and I hated it. Like nothing made sense to me. I like barely passed the class, and then I realized that there was economics 2 and economics 3 and so on and so forth. And I was like, there is no way I could ever graduate if I have to take any further of this. So I literally looked at my credits and figured out that marketing was the program that would take the most credits. So I wouldn't have to start all over again with a different degree. And I ended up in marketing. So I started taking marketing classes. And one day we had an online computers class, I think it was, or so. It was like computers class, it must have been. And it was a 3 hour class. And he literally went over email marketing, social media, content marketing, Google Ads, Google Analytics, all in 3 hours. And for whatever reason, Google Ads and Analytics really stood out to me. And I wrote it down in my journal for whatever reason. And then I just went off and started continuing the school, and then eventually I started my first business, and I went, oh yeah, those ads that my teacher taught me about, maybe I should try them. So I took like maybe about $250 to $500 a month and tried to sell tickets to like the events that we were hosting. And then 3 years later, I realized that I hated event planning. Like it's not like it's great, but it's a very thankless job. And I was like, this isn't for me anymore. So I sat down and kind of looked at everything, and I went, okay, well, ads I did pretty well with. Like we sold tickets and the conversion rates were pretty decent. Maybe this is something that I could pursue. So I ended up moving from British Columbia to Alberta, which is in Canada, and started pursuing PPC out of just sheer interest. And then eventually somebody saw my profile on LinkedIn and was like, you have the skill set that we're looking for. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, sure, why not? I went in for an interview, and 2 hours later, they offered me the position. So I went from spending what would have maybe about $6,000 a year to $4.3 million. What felt like overnight. Admittedly, there was a lot of years in between that, but like it really just felt like it happened overnight, and that kind of really catapulted my career in Google Ads, because I had to learn really quickly how to manage larger accounts that were spending thousands of dollars and not a couple $100. So I really immersed myself into the community online at that time, which was really fantastic and amazing. And I made so many friends that were able and willing to help me, and that's kind of what I used to grow myself. So very quickly, within about 4 months, Google had spotlighted me as like a rising star. And within 6 months, I think it was 6 months or 7 months, something along those lines, they had asked me to join their ambassador program. So I got to be part of their ambassador program for 2 years, where we got to talk to Google directly about what we wanted to see in ads, but then also beta test some of the stuff that they were actually outrolling, which was really, really, really cool. So I was the first Canadian to ever do Gmail ads at that time. So yeah, it was just it was this one job literally changed everything for
Yeah.
me. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, great experience. Love it. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I wanna ask you about my common question that I usually get all the time from my customers, users. Why Google Ads don't work for them for specific cases? And I think it is the main reason why TikTok doesn't work for me, Instagram doesn't work for me, because I'm not good with that. In order to compete with others, I pay attention to specific channels, but I still have the question, and people can think that this channel doesn't work. I don't know how it doesn't work if Google can earn like $150 billion, revenue with Google Ads. It's a lot. So if marketers can pay such money, that means this channel works. So can you tell why it doesn't work for some companies, cases, projects?
Yeah, so in some cases, it simply doesn't work because you don't have the profit margins.
Mhm.
So a lot of business owners, and this is the biggest issue that we run into a lot with like the companies that we work with, a lot of them don't know what their profit margins look like. So they come in and they're like, Google ads don't work. And I'm like, okay, cool, let's find out why. And then suddenly we realize that their profit margins are so thin that Google Ads is taking up all the rest of it. So then when they look at their spreadsheets, they're like, we're losing money. And it's obvious. And I'm like, of course you are. You're spending money on stuff that isn't making you money. You're spending money on, like completely like 10% margin rates. Like that's not healthy in any way to be able to run ads for. So being really aware of what your profit margins are and looking at it holistically and only really advertising the products that you actually have a higher margin on is probably step number one, I would say. The next is Google Ads is very intricate. There are many, 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 many different variables in it. You mess one up, it can completely derail a campaign. So a lot of times people will call Google and they'll assume that Google has their best interest in for them, and realizing that Google is a business and not a charity is something that not a lot of people really like quite understand quite yet, because they'll be like, Google called, and I'm like, no, that's not what we wanted. Like they're not going to help you, they're going to make it actually worse. So oftentimes adding something like search partners or display network can also mess up a campaign, because then you're spending money on other networks that you don't necessarily want to be spending money on. Not to say that those networks don't work, it's just that you actually really have to have a controlled experience with it. Like you really need to have it set up that you're testing it for a certain time period, and then you're going to turn it off or you're going to turn it on. And a lot of business owners don't know understand what that means. So oftentimes they'll turn it on and then be like, why are we spending thousands of dollars and getting nothing in? And oftentimes what I'll find is, well, you've chosen display select or display network. Obviously it's not going to work. You're just displaying your text ads to everybody. uh, there's so I could keep on going forever on why there's people are
Yeah,
not
yeah,
doing well on
uh,
ads.
yeah. Many reasons. I agree. Many reasons.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
many reasons.
yeah. Can you tell about interface? When I open Google Ads, I can see a lot of fields, plus 100
Mhm.
fields, probably 1,000 fields. It might confuse non-advanced users who can see the first time. But I like to control the process because I found if you understand how it works, then you can get high results, even cooperating with experts, because you can tell them, you can speak one language to explain what kind of customers you have, how to achieve them. So can you tell how to learn this interface and make it user friendly?
Oh gosh, the problem with the user interface is that they're changing it about every 5 years. So they're currently actually going through a change right now, and
Yeah.
I'm notorious for pushing it back every single time. So they'll give you an option of like, do you want to use the new interface or do you want to go back to the old one? I will go back to the old one until they force me to use the new one. Like I'm not an early adopter. I am the one on the other end who's very angry that I have to learn something new. I hate it. I finally get used to one interface and then they give me a new one every single time. So that's something that everybody needs to be prepared for. The moment you feel comfortable is the moment that they're going to change everything for you. And I think the best way to understand the interface is by going through it one by one. Like literally just click a button and then take like a good minute or two and just look at it and try to understand what's on this page and why it's there. And I think that really, really helps, especially even for like experts who are in the interface every single day. That's usually kind of my tactic is I'll sit there, press one thing, go through it, look at everything and really understand what it's for and what it's doing. So that way, when I'm actually starting to manage the accounts and stuff like that, I actually have a better understanding of where to go and what, and not to get frustrated because like changing interfaces is very frustrating because you don't know where to find your information and stuff like that. So taking a couple minutes just to go through each little tab is probably the best way to do it. And it's been pretty good for me, honestly. Like I've been able to pick it up really quickly. It's just that I don't want to.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I agree. I usually do it like this. I just open all fields, spend some time. If I'm frustrated, I can get back for a while, so
Yeah.
that's okay. You can. It's hard to learn from the first attempt, but if you do it at least a few times, I'm not sure you can learn from a few times. Probably you need to spend like a few weeks, even months to understand how it works. So yeah, we'll be fine. But it's patience. I don't know how to get overnight success to any other platform. It takes time to learn, to understand how it works.
Especially with advertising platforms, because there's so many little levers that you can pull at all times or buttons that you can push. So really taking your time to understand what's happening and not getting frustrated about it. And like you said, just walking away or doing something else is a really great way to learn all of that, just because these platforms are designed to be complicated. They don't want you to be in them and doing the work yourself. They want their reps to be doing the work so that way they can actually edge out more money out of you. So taking that first step in your education to actually just understand the platform alone puts you steps ahead of other people.
Nice. I mean, I want to ask about LinkedIn ads, but I want to share example with about LinkedIn ads, but it concerns to Google ads as well. Once I listened to audio podcast when well-known company wasted $500,000 in LinkedIn ads and got zero leads, nothing. And I think we can find a lot of similar examples on Google ads, on Facebook ads. It doesn't matter. People, companies jump fast, waste money. Can you tell how to avoid it? I mean, I know it takes time to test, to experiment. Sometimes we can lose money. That's okay, but we can learn. And can you tell how to minimize the risk of losing money, to test, experiment? I mean, to get results faster without losing this money.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the what I like to call walk, crawl, run kind
Mm-hmm.
of mindset. I don't like starting things really, really quickly. I'm notorious for being very, very cautious
Mm-hmm.
on Google Ads, which is so weird because I'm not that way in my life in general. But like when it comes to ads, I like really am very particular. So oftentimes I'll start with a lower budget than what we have for the daily, just to see how everything's going to perform over the week. Because again, I want to mitigate the loss of ad spend as much as possible. And that's kind of really how I started my career in the first place, was me really telling everybody, I'm like, I could save you ad spend and still be able to get you more money out of it. And that's really like how I started everything. I was fixing accounts because people were using broad match keywords, which they didn't understand. So broad match keywords are basically you throwing a net into the ocean and saying, I'll take everything. So all the plastic, all the garbage, the fish, whatever else you're going to find in there. And that's not a really effective technique unless you have a very technical person working on the account,
Mm-hmm.
right? Someone who's very meticulous and very detail oriented. If they're not detail oriented, then broad match doesn't work because you're literally saying, hey, give me everything. So then Google's naturally going to be like, okay, well, if you want everything, then I'll show you ads for cheese in Edmonton. And I'm a web development agency in Edmonton. That cheese doesn't have anything to do with me, but because I've said broad, they'll be like, yeah, this is somewhat like what you're looking for, right? So that's one really, really great way to mitigate that loss or that ad spend is not using broad match right out of the gate. I would recommend maybe doing it after maybe a year of you actually really understanding what's happening in the account and then opening everything up. Conversion tracking is my favorite topic to talk about because so little people do it. So what I want to see when I'm in a client account is going into Google Analytics and knowing that they're tracking their events. When somebody purchases, do we know where they came from, how much they spent, how long they were on the site, like all that information we want to know, because then that makes our marketing so much easier. We know who this person is, we know what they're looking for, and we know where they're located. So if I'm able to take data that tells me that everybody in, let's say, California has a higher conversion rate than New York, why would I put money into New York? I'm going to put money into California and make more money. So it's using better data or using your data better, but then also not falling for all of the upgrades that Google is telling you to go forward with, which is like search partners, broad match, sometimes not even having conversion tracking, because that really does mean that they're going to make money off of that, right? So when you have conversion tracking in, you can very quickly realize if your ads are working or not. If I haven't converted in 2, 3, 4 weeks, that's going to cause a little bit of panic in my body to sit there and be like, okay, what's wrong in this account, right? And likely that's what happened with that LinkedIn story and many others, is that conversion tracking was never implemented properly. They never bothered to think about checking it. And then suddenly they've spent all this money and they're like, oh, we got nothing out of it. When they could have really mitigated that loss within like maybe $1,000. And that's significantly less and much more manageable. But now they have $500,000 that they're in debt for because they simply just didn't implement like the right tracking in the first place.
Yeah, valuable. Nice, interesting. I usually help my clients with organic reach, but some of them set up Google ads, LinkedIn ads, Facebook ads, and if they ask me to help, I usually lead them to experts like you know, to tell it's better to cooperate with experts, not with me. I can't give the right advice, but I want to share another example when one of my clients spent I don't want to tell this number, but a lot of money by on Google ads, and his campaigns didn't work before he found 5,000 negative words, a lot of words, because he sells like batteries for electric cars, but users are looking for batteries for smartphones, different gadgets, and he wasted a lot of money and spent like, I don't remember exactly, a few months to create this list of negative words. Can you tell how to do it faster? I mean, like to find these negative words that can bring irrelevant clicks.
Yeah, so I've got a couple techniques for that, or different ways that I go about that. So there's some really great people who have created negative keyword lists online already for us. So simply just doing a Google search of negative keywords and then insert whatever industry you're in might actually result in like negative keywords that will pop up. More often than not, if it's not your industry, they'll give you a general list of like free, cheap, like adult keywords that you don't necessarily want to show up for that you wouldn't really think of. So then you can start with like a smaller list and then understand what you're looking for. And then the next step, if I wasn't able to find my industry, I would go into Google and just start typing stuff and see what actually shows up in that search. And that gives me a better idea of what type of terms people are using. And then you can take it another step further if you really, really want to go like super robust and really just like running for the hills, essentially. You go into Keyword Planner and you literally just do the same thing. Start typing stuff up and see what searches come up. And then just within Google Ads, you're able to just select keywords and say if you want them to be positive or if you want them to be negative. So you just simply just put them into a list and you're like, hey, put these off. I don't want to touch them. And that's a really great way to get a good couple hundred keywords right before you even start the campaign. And then obviously keeping up with the search terms report as the campaign is running, and then going through and negating as much as you possibly can is a great way to do it. And then also my favorite is using scripts. I'll have scripts like API scripts that will send me keyword data to my inbox. And then from there, I'll be able to pick out certain words that are just showing up. So maybe let's say let's say like iPhone is the common term in a lot of searches. I don't need to make every single search a negative keyword. I just need to make sure that iPhone's not part of it. And that keyword data would give me that information. So there's quite a few ways to make your negative keyword list pretty robust. It's just a matter of doing a lot of tedious work.
Yeah, nice, awesome. Amit, I wanna ask you how to collect data. I spoke with great Google Ads experts, and all of them share different methods, various methods, how to collect data. But what I found, none of them use standard methods. They usually go outside of comfort zone to speak with customers, to learn more about business, to speak with salespeople. So tell your methods, how you collect data before creating and launching Google Ads campaigns.
Oh gosh, there's a couple ways. So we'll start with a questionnaire with our client. So what we want is to see how they see their business, because I think as digital marketers, we very quickly learn that how a business owner sees their business is very different to what their business actually really looks like. So oftentimes business owners will be like, my target demographic is female from 25 to 35. And then we'll go into Google Analytics and we'll realize that their actual consumer is female, but they're actually quite a bit older, 45 to 65. But because they aren't looking at data and they just look at just like random pieces of information, they just assume that like their demographic is younger. So really confirming that information that we get from clients is a really big piece in our account setup, is really just looking at what they think and then what we know to be true, and then connecting the two. And then after that, we're really looking at competitors. We're doing a lot of spying on them. What kind of keywords are they bidding for? How long have they been advertising for? How much money are they spending? Those kind of information, that kind of information really, really helps us get an edge on them. And now with like the Google Ads library, I'm not entirely sure what it's called, so I just call it the Google Ads library, but you're able to look at what your competitors are actually advertising for and what their ads look like, which is amazing, because now we're able to sit there and be like, okay, well, their ad copy sucks. Now I can improve it. All I have to do is just take whatever they did badly and just go off and just copy it, right? Like, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to try to do the new stuff. All I need to do is be better than the competition at the end of the day. So why not just steal their work and just, make my life a little bit easier? So I think collecting data is really, really great, but also being really smart with it. And that really kind of just boils down to looking at your Google Analytics, looking at something like Hotjar, which is a website recorder, I guess, in a session recorder. So you can watch how people go through the website. Is really great, because that gives you a better idea of whether or not there is any friction on the website. So at one point I had a client, when I had first started out freelancing, he was selling, I think it was like baby diapers or something like that, like a subscription service. And I remember him sitting there going, oh, I get like no leads. And I remember going onto his website, and I had to do this manually because I didn't know about Hotjar at that point. And I realized that his form was 25 questions. And I was like, no wonder you get no leads. Nobody wants to do this. And here he was spending money on ads, thinking that it was going to work for him, when really in reality, it was one major hindrance, right? So I turned around and looked at him. I'm like, name, phone number, email. That's all you need. Do not ask them anything else. We can qualify them on a phone call. So it was really just cleaning up that data, because I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, you can collect that and write it down, and then that way we have it as first party data. So yeah, I think I went off on a tangent, but I hopefully answered that question.
Yeah. I think these people from North Korea think you answered this question. So yeah, and Amit, I wanna ask about your Livein tools that all paid marketers must have today. You mentioned about Google library. I think Facebook has this library, and Google launched the same library after Facebook, probably to learn this positive experience. And it's a legitimate way to spy your competitors, as you mentioned. You can
Mhm.
learn from their mistakes. And you remind me an interesting book that I read right now. What is the name of the book? I forget. Okay, I'll share on the podcast episode. But the main point of this book that biggest brands, companies didn't start with great ideas. They started with
Mhm.
generic ideas and develop, innovated them. So as the same with Google Ads, you don't need to create something new. You need to learn from competitors and think how develop, innovate, provide something better. So yeah, love it. And companies like Walmart, Walt Disney, many big companies started with some generic ideas, nothing special.
Yep.
And even great ideas can kill your business because it's hard to create something really unique from scratch. But if you start from generic idea, you can develop, innovate, and in the end, you can create something special, new, interesting. I mean, yeah. Can you tell about tools that must have in Google Ads campaigns?
Oh gosh, there's so many, I feel. Yeah, the Google Ads library is a really great one, especially if you don't want to pay for like another subscription like SEMrush, where you can
Mhm,
really like um look at all your competitors all at once and kind of compare notes if you wanted to. And that's something, it tends to be a little pricey. So using Google Ads library is a really great way to kind of avoid spending that money. But then you also don't really get that keyword data and you don't really get to see how much they're spending. So there's pros and
mhm,
cons on both sides of that. I really love session recorders, so Hotjar. There's a couple other out there. I just don't know their names. So they basically, as somebody comes onto your website, they essentially just start recording so that that way you can actually take a look at where they went, how they were moving around the website. So it gives you a better understanding of the user experience, um, which really helps with some of our clients because sometimes I'm like, this isn't working and they won't believe you unless they see the evidence. So you ship over like a bunch of videos and go, here's a bunch of people leaving your site in 10 seconds because they couldn't find what they were looking for. It's time for a change. And that's been really, really great to help support us in that. I love using, if you're managing a lot of accounts, I love using Optimizer. It's like basically like, it's an optimization tool, but I use it for more budget management than anything else and making sure that accounts are staying, if they're not performing better than they were the last month, I want to make sure that they're staying at least somewhat the same. And they send me alerts every time we drop past like maybe about 10% or something like that. And then I'll jump in and go into the account and take a look and make sure that everything's running very smoothly. Another tool that I really, really like is just the like the Google tools that are provided to us, like the optimization ones for mobile and page speed. Um, we're in an age where nobody really is looking for anything on their desktop. Like a lot of people are really just on their mobile phone. So making sure that our sites are mobile friendly, but they're also loading really quickly is a massive step ahead of a bunch of other people. Like a lot of people don't want to be waiting more than 3 seconds, which is absurd. But like they don't want to work, they don't want to wait for 3 seconds. They want the website up and ready right away. And if you're not providing that, especially for a Google ad, you're going to start seeing people drop off. So using tools like that just to make sure that your site is still up to date is highly recommended on my end.
Yeah, nice. Love it. Love it. Awesome. It's interesting. My dogs usually take part on my podcast as well, but right
Yep.
now they are sleeping. So I
Yeah,
can.
it's very fun. It's always the one. The other one is very, I've got two of them. The other one's totally quiet. It's just the one who likes to sing halfway through. He's
Yeah.
like, "You're talking too much and you're not talking to me."
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And guys, you can see it's live conversation. So yeah, and I found it's better to have such noise time to time, because
Yeah.
it shows that we are live. Okay, I wanna ask about AI. Today it's hard to ignore this tool that was simple yesterday, impossible tomorrow. And the last time, if I open any tools, I can see AI integration everywhere, even on LinkedIn. If I wanna post new content, LinkedIn asks, "Do you need AI help?" If I go to Google, to Grammarly, to Google Documents, AI is everywhere on my email. So I think we have AI on Google Ads as well. So tell
We do.
how to use AI to get great results.
Oh gosh, this one's a little bit of a harder question to answer just because they haven't fully implemented it. And I
Mhm,
find that Google has a tendency to um, mess everything up before they make it better.
mhm.
So, and a great example is G4, really, at this point, the Google Analytics 4 rollout that recently happened. And admittedly, they were forced to do it, but it was 2 years too early. So it feels like it's very much a Google thing where they kind of mess something up and then they slowly but surely make it better. Um, so I think that's what we're going to end up seeing with Google Ads, especially. So they started rolling it out into Performance Max, which is the newest, or the second newest, I should say, ad platform, or not platform, ad format. It basically pushes all your content out to display, YouTube, shopping, search, everywhere, all in one place, which is really, really great and amazing, and has yielded some pretty great results. But you actually have to really make sure that you're feeding it correct data. Which is a completely different conversation. But now what they've added in terms of AI is adding text and image creation by itself. So right now we're kind of in the testing period. It's not fully out in Canada, so I haven't been able to take a look. So I've been kind of just following a couple people just to see how it's going, and it's very hit or miss. I think especially with something like ChatGPT 4, the information is only up to about 2021. They don't have 2022 or 2023 data. So we're only going to see so much of it. Once AI starts to advance to more current data, I think that's when we're going to be able to utilize it a lot more. So right now, the way that we utilize it is by using it for ad copy. So I'll ask ChatGPT 4 to write headlines basically for, let's say, a furniture store. And then I'll sit there and look at all of them. And then I use those as ideas, not as the headline.
Mhm.
So a study, or not a study, a test that we did internally actually showed that AI copy out, or actually underperforms against human written copy, because people can still tell the difference. So
Yeah.
basically what I did is I went into ChatGPT 4, pulled all the descriptions, all of the headlines, and then got our copywriter to write ads for us. And she wasn't even aware that we were going to actually use them, which is the funny part. And then we tested them against each other, and she kicked AI's butt every single time. So using AI to help get ideas is a really great idea, but using it to write content for you is never going to be really that great, just because humans can tell the difference and they resonate more with something that's written by a human. So using AI in that front, and even within the platform as they continue to add that in, use it as an idea place. Don't use it as the end all be all, because you're going to likely see negative results because of that.
Yeah. OpenAI is going to launch spoken words version.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how it looks. Probably OpenAI learned why content creators complain. So, and we will see this version. I don't know. It will be like human being speaking with you. So yeah, interesting to test. I mean,
Yeah, I feel like that'd be
yeah,
creepy.
yeah. I, uh, I mean, I wanna ask about mistakes. In organic reach, I can create content and fail. Then I create a new piece of content, can fail again, and a teeny percent of content can bring great results. It's enough, to overcome all failures. But in Google Ads, we can't fail like this. As we discussed, some companies can lose 500K. Um, even $1 million. I read some studies about that. So, can you tell mistakes that paid marketers still do but can avoid, because some mistakes we need to do. I made a lot of mistakes. I keep doing
Mm-hmm.
them, some of them terrible. I know about them, but I don't know another way how to learn, because I usually start from generic strategy, best practices. I fail, but in Google Ads it's expensive to fail. So tell how to avoid these mistakes.
Oh gosh, I feel like the mistakes are kind of the same ones that I've been kind of harping on this entire time. Is using the wrong or the wrong match type. So we're given three match types: exact, phrase,
Mhm.
and broad. Broad is that end all catch all. Phrase is a little bit more restricted, and then exact match is like, this is exactly the key term that we want to show up for. We don't want to show up for anything else. And it really kind of boils down to how much control you really want to have in your account. For me, especially if you're someone who's starting, phrase match makes the most sense to me. It gives you a little bit of flexibility, so you show up for other terms, but not so much constraint. That exact match kind of narrows you down. And admittedly, with exact match, we have something called close variance, where Google goes ahead and goes, well, this is closely related, so this should be fine. Phrase match still works a little bit better than that. So I kind of prefer phrase match more than anything else. Not having your conversion tracking, that is something that I will say till the day I die, honestly. Like, the number of accounts that I've walked into and noticed that they aren't tracking conversions, or they're tracking page views, is outstanding. Honestly, it's kind of a little baffling to me just to see how many agencies are like, yeah, this makes sense. I don't want to track page views because I don't care, is really honestly the answer. I want to know how much money I've made you. And the only way for me to figure that out is by tracking how many people have called you, how many people have emailed you, how many people have submitted a form, how many people actually made a purchase on your website if you're e-com. That's conversion tracking to me. And that is what I find to be the correct way of tracking. Is things that make a movement in your business. Tracking page views isn't going to do anything. I will look at your page, like your website. I might look at 100 pages, but if I'm not making a purchase, what's the difference? Mm-hmm. Like, it makes no logical sense. So those are, I'm going to say those are the two big ones. I want to keep talking about the two big ones, those ones, using broad match and using conversion tracking, or not using conversion tracking properly. And then also just spending too much money right out the gate. So a lot of people are like, okay, I have $100 a day, and that's fantastic, but let's maybe start with 25, 30, and slowly start to ramp up as we start seeing results. Because the last thing that we want to do is give so much money into something that we don't know is going to work. And that's where a lot of those like ad spend mishaps kind of happen, especially if you're not an expert in the field. Spending the $100 a day, Google's going to take the $100 a day. They're not going to sit there and be like, hey, you didn't spend it today, we're not going to take it. They're 100% going to take it. They're a business. So I want to make sure that I control that experience as much as I possibly can by lowering that ad spend for a little bit and then ramping it up as I start to see what I want to see out of the account.
Yeah, awesome. And Amit, I want to ask about your experience. Just imagine you started today from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills. You know, Google exists, but you don't know that Google can list paid ads. So you need to learn from scratch. What will you do today if you need to learn everything from scratch? And let me explain why I'm asking about that, because I have students who are looking for ways how to learn from scratch, and I have customers who need to get the basic to cooperate with experts, to hire experts like you in the end. So for both, I mean, like for students, for entrepreneurs who want to learn the basic of Google Ads.
The basics, I would go to Udemy, which is that online course platform or education platform, I should say. Isaac Radunsky has a fantastic, like it's an amazing beginner's course. It's absolutely free, which is the best part, because usually when you're a beginner, you don't have money. So I really try to look at, and I have a relatively large online following, so a lot of people message me and like, where do I learn? And I'm constantly like, let's find the free resources before I get you to do the paid ones. So Isaac Radunsky's Udemy course is fantastic, and that's the one that I would actually recommend for any beginner to look at, because he really goes through everything one by one. I think the advanced and the intermediate ones are paid, but I'm not 100% sure on that front. And then also blogs are a really great place to learn. So Search Engine Land, Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Roundtable, they all have the same name, basically. Those are really great resources to tell you what's happening in Google and what the effects are as well. So they'll sit there and do both sides of it. It's not an article about negative keywords and then that's the end of it. It's a, here's negative keywords and here are the effects and this is why you want to do it and this is how you would remove them or something along those lines, right? So I really love those blogs. You can go to social media as well. So my Instagram account is actually pretty active in education and training. So going to Instagram or Facebook or even LinkedIn to follow people in the field is a really great way to do that. And that's basically how I kind of got started, was me just reading a lot. I read every article that I possibly could read. I followed every person that I could possibly follow, and then I engaged with them. Because the more, even if I don't understand, and even if I look like the silly person in the room, I'm still going to learn something. So I think really being somebody who can put their ego aside and walk away and be like, you know what, I just need to learn from this person. It's okay if I sound kind of a little silly and a little stupid, is a really great place. It's a really great mindset for learning. So for me, I constantly want to be the dumbest person in the room, even with my staff or even with like my peers. I want to be stupid. I want to ask the idiotic questions, and I want you to educate me further. So I would really encourage, especially for beginners, to wear that proudly. You don't know anything. That's okay.
Yeah.
Just like be eager to learn.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, love it, love it. And guys, one more way how you can learn. You need to follow Amit Cabra on LinkedIn because you're super active to share value. I know about that because I personally follow you. I need these valuable bombs. And so you share a lot of great resources, but you forget about your account that's super active, by sharing value. So, guys, you can find the link in the description below. Tell our audience the best way how to keep learning from you, how to reach out to you, how to follow you.
Gosh, I would say like LinkedIn and Instagram are probably the greatest two ways if you're looking at social platforms. So I'm AdWords girl on both platforms. We have a newsletter, and right now we're doing actually a 10-week get ready for fall type of email sequence right now. So every week we're touching on something new. This week we're talking about keywords. Next week, I believe we're talking about like creative and display content. And it's just really kind of gearing up for the Thanksgiving season, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then obviously Christmas as well, because that's a really it's a really, really obviously busy time, especially for e-commerce businesses. So our newsletter is a really great place to learn if you want to start actually looking at possibly advertising for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Is that news? Yeah, I feel like that newsletter will do really well. So you can find that at hopskipmedia.com, and then our blog is also pretty active as well. So there's lots of content everywhere from us that you can find.
Nice, awesome, guys. I recommend to anyone to follow Amit Cabra on LinkedIn, on Instagram, to keep learning because uh, Google Ads and all digital marketing are quickly changing world. Many things are coming. You need to update, and if something works today, it doesn't mean that it will work forever. It might not work tomorrow, so that's okay. It's part of our job, marketers, to adapt fast, and you need to learn from great experts like Amit. Thank you, Amit. It's a big pleasure. Thank you
Of
so
course,
much.
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, big pleasure that you found this time to share these valuable bombs. You lead me to an emergency room. I need to spend time to consume all this information. And I hope to get these valuable bombs in the future to follow your content. Okay, guys, love you. See you.
Bye.